Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're actually going to be looking at a league replay today. This is from the Total War Fantasy League. Shetland Apache going to be facing off against Tiala Nala. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hopefully, if I'm wrong, you guys will correct me in the comments down below. But today we're going to be looking at Wood Elves versus High Elves, and it is going to give us an opportunity to look at the lore of Shadows here, which is one of my next favorite lores of Magic. So let's first look at the army builds. So Shetland Apache here taking the Wood Elves. He's got a Glady up on an Eagle. We've also got a Waystalker, which I don't bring these guys too often, but I'm starting to see them come back around more often. The Arrows of Kurnas ability has some people use it. Shetland Apache is going to actually use it here right at the start of the battle to do a little bit of damage to Teclis. You can see about 10%, 15% HP damage. I haven't ever been able to get that spell to connect in Total War Warhammer 2, but if they fix the targeting for it, it can potentially be very powerful. And this guy has got snipes, stalk, fire whilst moving, so he can stay on the move and keep shooting. Does quite a bit of damage. We've also got some Sisters of Thorn, 3 units of Deepwood Scouts, 3 Glade Guard, 2 with Starfire Shafts, and 1 with the Hagbane Tip, the Shadow Spell Singer. We've also got War Dancers with Azrai Spear and Wild Riders hidden in the forest over here, and a Mirror over on this side. More War Dancer and Wild Riders. So for the High Elf forces, unsurprisingly, we've got plenty of Illyrian Reavers. We're going to be pretty solid in this matchup. We've got 4 Illyrian Reavers, 2 Dragon Princes, also hidden in the woods, 3 Spearmen up front with 3 Lothern Seaguard and 2 Archers, all very good picks. We've also got Teclis here. Looks like he's got Net of Ammontok, Flock of Doom, and Regrowth. Pretty solid spell loadout for him. We'll take a look at some of the unique casters that have mixed lores at a later date, but Teclis is definitely one of those. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick the battle into full gear as we'll watch things unfold. So in today's discussion, we're kind of focusing in on lore of Shadows a little bit here. So if we have a look, Shetland Apache today has has cut the lore attribute. He's just got Melkos Mystifying Miasma and Enfeebling Foe, both of which are going to be very useful spells. He's already making good use of some of them. You can see that Melkos Mystifying Miasma going off on these Illyrian Reavers here. It does a damage, direct damage, and gives a minus 24% speed debuff. Doesn't do the most damage. Scales against multi-model units, so cavalry and up will be the most optimal targets. Enfeebling Foe, of course, is a spell you guys will see me take all the time. It's basically the mirror of Harmonic Convergence. Gives you much better weapon skill at plus 26 melee attack, 27 melee defense, so very powerful. Useful in almost any situation. You can see right out of the gates here, 1 unit of Deepwood Scouts getting collapsed, but these Illyrian Reavers are definitely taking some heat for that. These Illyrian Reavers had initially come up this way and decided to pull back, or by over here, meanwhile over here rather, these Dragon Princes getting baited away nicely by the Wild Riders, who did take quite a bit of damage there, but then the War Dancers coming in and also giving the pain right back. So very close battle so far, neither player really taking an advantage here, but very nice Prey of Anathrema there, just kind of interrupting these Dragon Princes who are about to compromise all these Deepwood Scouts. So they're able to focus fire and finish off another unit of Illyrian Reavers here, and the Sisters of Thorn versus Illyrian Reavers is 2 of the best light cavalry in the game fighting in melee. Sisters of Thorn and Illyrian Reavers are both very good in melee, particularly Sisters of Thorn with their physical resistance, whereas Illyrian Reavers just have great raw combat stats. Sisters are much more expensive, of course. They also have the support buffs and some other niche abilities, poison, missile attacks, and so on. But yeah, they are going to get the upper hand in this engagement, but a little bit of a risky play here just because of the returning Dragon Princes, and Shetland is going to get this unit of Sisters of Thorn isolated here, and they're going to get collapsed on by all these arrow fire, Spearmen, and Dragon Princes. Glady's still relatively safe though. They've just been continuously poking away at Teclis here, forcing him to try and either use that Potion of Troy or his own healing to try and heal himself back up. Wild Riders and Azrai Spear getting a little bit over aggressive here, probably need to pull back away. They don't want to take this engagement, you know, isolated from the rest of their troops here. There's still quite a bit of ammo left on these Deepwood Scouts and Glade Guards as well, so let's see here. Something just went off from the Spell Singer. Looks like another upgraded Melkos Mystifying Miasma, which I believe gives it an extended cast range and duration. So very worthwhile to overcast that there. You can see it does a little bit of damage, not the most, but also helps debuff the speed, more importantly, of those Dragon Princes as well. Some very nice positioning here, kind of getting out in front with the War Dancers, not allowing the Dragon Princes to come through, and now countercharging in this way. The Illyrian Reavers, who are trying to rally, are also potentially going to get caught up in this, so very nice positioning. The woods are also going to protect the War Dancers from missile fire there. Meanwhile, this other unit of Spearmen here getting a little bit out of position is probably going to get collapsed on in terms of arrow fire, at least. We're going to have a little bit of a shootout in the OK Corral with the High Elf Archers. Lothern Seaguard with shields, nonetheless, going to be taking on a lot of these Wood Elf missile units. But they're definitely, Wood Elf units are getting the better of the exchange just because of their positioning right now. You can see he's nice and spread out, so his units aren't all bunched up on top of each other like the High Elf forces are here. You can see several units all stacked on top of each other, means they're not going to be able to fire as effectively. That being said, the balance power is still very, very close. There's still plenty of battle left. You can see Net of Ammontok being used to catch these War Dancers here, and then a Flock of Doom going off as well. The War Dancers will not trade very efficiently with Spearmen, just regular High Elf Spearmen, so, you know, pretty good use of them to get in here and tie down a much more expensive unit. That being said, those Dragon Princes have taken quite a bit of damage, and it looks like Teclis is going to be tossing a regrowth, potentially on these very tattered Dragon Princes here. Probably would have been better to use it on the one with more unit models left. These guys have about 28 unit models or so. It's about, so they could heal up to about half their HP, but instead opting to use it on the very, very low group. Again, these Spearmen are trying to get on these Glade Guards here, where the Glade Guards are a little bit faster. They're able to turn and get a very nice concave of fire and just isolate the Spearmen and take it out. Meanwhile, the War Dancers with Azrai Spear kind of getting into the back line here, so to speak. A lot of the High Elf Cavalry is still online. We've got some very tattered Dragon Princes and Illyrian Reavers, but all things considered, it's, you know, going decently. Its bounce power is still very, very close. That Spellslinger just dropped another enfeebling foe, rather, on these Dragon Princes, but is going to get caught by a net by Teclis' net here, and the Dragon Princes are definitely going to give her the business, so fortunately, the Shadow Singer looks like she's just about out. A lot of those War Dancers are routing off. You can see the one that's not routing is trying to beat a retreat to try and get on this isolated pocket of archers here, but you can see kind of the archers going back to back, shoulder to shoulder, so to speak, and just mowing down those War Dancers there. Very, very rough fate. So, so far, it's, again, still dead even at this point. Very, very close battle. These Wild Riders are relatively healthy, and they are going to get in on these Illyrian Reavers. Wild Riders are more than a match for Illyrian Reavers, and they're fast enough to catch them. So this is going to be one engagement where the Illyrian Reavers will struggle somewhat. But with the support of the Dragon Princes, they might be able to do okay. Granted, those Dragon Princes are very tattered, but the Wild Riders, of course, are a relatively low armor unit. So looks like that Shadow Singer did manage to rally here, going to be retreating and trying to get some more spells off. Meanwhile, the Deepwood Scouts still online, taking down this, or sorry, not the Deepwood Scouts, the Glade Guards rather, still online, taking down this very tattered Lothern Seaguard. These Wild Riders tying down a lot of these High Elf Cavalry here, so we'll go ahead and grab some cinematic action in the pits. A nice Flock of Doom from Teclis as well, trying to tear away the last of those Wild Riders, but they are going to be able to rout what's left of the Dragon Princes and potentially these Illyrian Reaver Archers as well. It's tough to say, but yeah, what's left of the War Dancers trying to get out of range, but just getting absolutely mowed down by High Elf arrows there. And the likewise the Waystalker, who is not taking quite as much heat, also pulling away. The Glade Guards are starting to pull up into range, but at this point, looking pretty dicey for the High Elves. These Lothern Sea Guards still have a lot of ammo left, and they also have shields, so they're going to be trading very effectively with all the Glade Guard here, because, of course, they have a missile block chance, which makes a huge difference. And at this point, the Glade Guards are not even returning fire, which they do have a little bit of ammo left, so trying to save it for something specific. But at this point, they honestly should just be returning fire because a lot of them are getting gunned down here, which means they're not going to, excuse me, they're not going to be able to get their ammo off because, of course, if a unit model dies, all the ammo that it's holding dies with it. So you can see the Waystalk here trying to use the last of its ammo. Another Arrows of Kurnus, this time from the Glady, dropping in on Teclis. He's just about to his healing cap. But at this point, the balance power is slightly in the High Elves' favor, but we'll see. We will see. It is still a very, very close battle. Anyone's game at this point. You can see the last of the Deepwood Scouts holding out in the woods here against Spearmen. They've used up all their ammo, but here come the War Dancers at the last second when the Deepwood Scouts rout, so just going to be able to tie up the rest of these cheap Spearmen here as well. A lot of these Glade Guards you can see taking a lot of heat, getting routed off, but Teclis is going to get actually just about sniped out here. You can see only 195 hit points left, basically at his healing cap more or less, and is actually routed, so as long as this Glady can stay alive and take down Teclis, they might be able to come back here. This Wild Rider's also still relatively healthy. Excuse me. Also, kind of pulling out around the periphery where the High Elf archers can't easily shoot at them. And this dang Waystalker as well, just running in here. Swords out, double swords out. Legolas getting in here, going to be chopping up these silly High Elves. And yeah. Another enfeebling foe, or actually a Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma there, being used to do a little bit of damage from the rallied Spellslinger. I can't imagine she has much Winds of Magic left, but anything at this point is going to be helpful. You can see some of the rallied Hagbane tips also going to be applying that poison effect as well as the Waystalker gets in here and starts to do his work. You can see him very flashy animations. Unfortunately, doesn't have that much splash attack power, but yeah, Teclis did get gooned out by the Glady. Unfortunately, did not catch it as she finished him off there, but now going to come in, side charge on these Lothern Seaguard and rout him off. And with the death of Teclis, it is going to be, you know, swinging in favor of the Wood Elves. Is this? No, that's a sister there. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly where he fell. It's somewhere in this vicinity here, but yeah. Oh, is that him? Nope, that's a Lunarian Reaver. Anyway. At this point, the balance power is going to be swung pretty heavily in the Wood Elves' favor, and despite their very, very tattered numbers, they might be able to pull it back, although if this Glady goes down, it might just swing right back in the High Elves' favor, so it's very tough to say at this point, but that missile fire right in the flank there of those archers is going to be very nice, and again, this Waystalker, which hasn't taken much damage, is going to be getting in here, doing his fancy little moves without doing much splash damage, but man, just getting absolutely surrounded by High Elf Spearmen at this point. But the Wild Riders are cleaning up those Lothern Seaguard. Bounce power is starting to tip more and more as these Glade Guards start to fire in from the side. They are going to do quite a bit of damage, of course. Glade Guards have nice missile damage, particularly the Starfire Shafts with their armor piercing, but even the Hagbane tips have solid missile damage overall. So you can see them firing in from the side. They're very flashy colored arrows here. And yeah, this Waystalker is just going to be pinning all these guys down, while the other forces kind of clean up around the periphery. So we'll fast forward through the late game engagement here as this Glady takes a little bit more missile fire, and the Waystalker kind of does his moves here in the center with the Glade Guards firing in from the side. Pretty much going to be the tail of the tape before the end of the battle here. So very well played to both players. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that battle. It was a fun battle. Always a good time to see Wood Elves taking on High Elves. Garithos would approve, of course. So always a good time. It also gives us an opportunity to look at one of my favorite lores of Magic, and one of the best lores of Magic in the game, in my opinion, Lore of Shadows. So, in terms of the army breakdown here, the Glady herself, 86 kills, as well as doing a ton of damage to Teclis. She actually got some really nice work done. The Glade Guards did some decent work. They could have done a little bit more. Deepwood Scouts, I'm not the biggest fan of these guys, but they were able to shut down the Illyrian Reavers somewhat effectively. Wild Riders definitely helped in that respect as well, and the War Dancers, of course, helping take down those Dragon Princes was key. 52 kills on the Waystalkers, very solid. He got some nice work done. For the High Elves, Dragon Princes, one of them picked up an XP Chevron. Some of the Lothern Seaguard, man, 82 kills on these guys is really nice, but the Illyrian Reavers just not paying off. Teclis getting sniped out super hard. I'm sure it was very micro-intensive to even try and keep them alive there, but the Archers are really where you're going to make your money in this particular matchup, so Hyalinala doing admirably there, but Shetland Apache pulling out a very nice win. I do think this is a little bit of a rough engagement for the Wood Elves, one of the tougher matchups for them, but they were able to pull it out there in the end. So let's just briefly finish off here with the Lore of Shadows. So if we go into the custom battle screen, we can take a look. Currently there's no legendary lore caster that has access to the full Lore of Shadows. There is the, let's see here, so Wood Elves have access to it with the Spellslinger Lore of Shadows. Branch Wraith also has a few spells from the Lore of Shadows, namely Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, the Penumbral Pendulum, and the Withering. Let's see here. Beastmen also have access to Lore of Shadows. Very useful. Let's see here. The Dark Elves, of course, as well. Lore of Shadows, and Morathi has a few spells from Lore of Shadows as well, with Pit of Shades and Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. Let's see here. The Empire, of course, also has Lore of Shadows with the Grey Wizard, and the Warriors of Chaos with the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, Lore of Shadows, and the Sorcerer Lore of Shadows as well, of course. I believe that's everyone. The Vampires, of course, I did miss. They also have Lore of Shadows, but not a super common pick with them because, as we discussed in our Vampire Lore of Vampires video, you're usually going to be sinking most of your magic into that lore specifically, so it's not always the best to take it as the Vampires. But let's go ahead and take a look at Chaos here just to kind of go through the spells, since they do have a Lord level Shadowcaster who can also take a Dragon, which is super cool. Let's see. So Melkoth and Enfeebling Foe we've looked at. Penumbral Pendulum is one that you'll see me use very often. It's one of the most cost-effective wind spells. Has a nice short cast time, does a lot of damage to low armor units, and if you overcast it, even armored units. And overall, very cost-effective spell. The Withering is a really nice armor and leadership debuff, particularly against the faction that has a lot of both, like the High Elves or the Dwarves. If you overcast, it gives an area of effect. We can take a look at that here. The overcast effect adds an effect area. In terms of the other two, this one just makes the Enfeebling Foe just lasts longer, and Melkoth, you get an extended cast range. The Penumbral Pendulum, of course, does much more armor piercing. Occam's Mind Razor is a very nice buff, 40% weapon damage and 40% AP, with magic damage as well. Can be very useful in specific matchups, especially when you think you're going to be facing a lot of physical resistance. So against factions like the High Elves, Bretonnia, and so on, going to be very useful there. Pit of Shades is a vortex that is stationary, so essentially it's ends up working out mechanically similarly to a spell like what's it called? The Dwellers from Below from the Lore of Life. It's a stationary vortex, so it just stays in one place, continuing to deal damage. Doesn't do as much damage per second as other vortexes because it stays in the same place, but allows you to target it more reliably. It does a decent amount of damage versus heavy cavalry as well, especially if you overcast it. It does a huge amount of armor-piercing damage if you overcast it. So, decent spell overall. All these spells here I would take in different situations. They're all useful in their own right, but your bread-and-butter spells, in my opinion, mainly Enfeebling Foe is going to be the biggest bread and butter spell, but Penumbral Pendulum and Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma are also going to be great bread and butter spells as well. The lore attribute for Lore of Shadows is Smoke and Mirrors, which is 12% speed, map wide for 24 seconds after casting, which is pretty solid, especially for a faction that's already very fast, like the Beastmen, for example. You can capitalize on this Smoke and Mirrors to make like your Centigors, for example, just insanely fast. So fun kind of synergy there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about Lore of Shadows, and of course, well played to Shell and Apache and Hyalanala for the fun battle, and we'll be taking a look at the rest of the series in subsequent videos, so stay tuned for that. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe, and hit that little bell notification button so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.